In this video, we're going to look on materials inside the View applications. In our view, we create this simple cube, and we'll just rotate this cube so we can absorb multiple sides. Let's actually also take our camera and move just slightly above. There you go. So you can see we can observe 1, 2, 3, 3 sides of the same cube. To access materials, we have it already pre-made materials that we can just download it, or we also have the materials that we can create by ourselves. Let's look first on materials we can preload. If we select in World Browser our object, on the top right, this window where we can see kind of sphere with all these different materials, we can go down to the icon, which is allowed us to click and open library of the materials. By default, you will have it install content. You also can add a different type of content one you created. I do have a very large collection of materials available for my Patreons. I put a link down below for those who are interested. And from materials, you can see we have all these different types of materials. Basic, cloud, and the kind of fun names. But when we learn what the type of these materials, it will make much easier to use them. For now, we'll just go on basic. And let's select some material. Maybe look like a checker. And you can see this material applied on our cube. Of course, if you want to change and have it more fancy, you can even put it like a grid. And look at this. Now you don't just see all the 3 sides, you see every side because it is add also transparency to this material. So it's meaning the properties of materials can also change the shape of materials. And this will be very visible if we're using what they call displacement material. Displacement materials, it's not just change surface, but as well, beside alpha, they change shape of the material. If you look right here when we applied, you'll see the sides, they're not even straight like on a cube anymore. They are changing and modifying shapes of the materials applied. Let's go back to our basic material and we'll switch again to our checker. This is pre-made materials and it's have a very large collection for this. But of course we want to create our own, the base maybe on an image or just explorational type of creation. For this, we'll need access material editor. You can access multiple ways. One, you can go object, right click and says edit material, or we can just easy way probably go on the top where we have it our selection of material. You'll notice you have a gear icon where it's if you click open material editor, as well if you just double time click on the image, it will open material editor. And by default you will see this type of this. This is the basic material editor, which allowed you to change a color, bump map, and transparency, very basic settings for material. We can use this one, however, I will highly recommend just ignore the basic material editor because it's very basic. It does not provide you anything, adjustments, good parameters, everything. And if you're willing to modify on this level, it's easy, just select materials that are already pre-made. Maybe just to twink around here. But advanced material give you much more options. And if you learn, trust me, you don't want to go back to the basic material. To access advanced material, we'll just need to click on this button, top left corner in our material editor, called Advanced Material Editor. If you click, you'll notice it is expand with many tabs. So let's expand, make a little bit bigger. It does provide little bit options, but you notice not all of them use it, and you don't need to use all of them. You can just focus on one thing. For example, if we're going to modify material, we can just go inside the color and just modify color here. For example, it says constant, switch to the color, make a little bit reddish pinkish color, and there you go. We just change color on our object. I mean, this is that simple and easy. Also, some of these tabs, they are changing depending on what type of material we can use it. So let's go see what type of material we have it. Right there, you can see it's called simple material. Simple material, it's a basic material that is Vu was creating with. And interesting because on simple materials, some of those tabs wasn't available first and they was added later. And some tabs will relate it to specific material. For example, right here, publish parameters, that was to specific custom material. And in many cases, you actually won't see this. So let me show you. So if we're going to select different material, like for example, flat gray, we're going open and you see we don't have this publish parameters anymore because person, you or somebody else who create material, they have the ability to create their own parameters for the materials. That is how very nice and flexible that it is. Okay, let's look on a simple material. If you notice, we have it our mode basic, simple materials drop down select. By the way, if you click, you can see it's have more materials here, and we will look on those materials as we're going along. Next, we have the mapping mode, which we'll cover shortly. Below, we have our material preview, but it's not just a preview, it's also material modification. For example, if you click on a gear button, you notice this is material options, and some of them will affect the renderability. For example, if I click only shadows, you'll notice in our screen, we don't see object, we're only creating the shadows. And this is very useful in some cases. So you can also modify how the material will render in the scene itself. Okay, we also have an additional randomize. It's meaning function when you're using. We won't work right now because it's just flat color. We also have this is preview option. This won't affect how it will render in the scene, but it will affect how we preview in our window here. Okay, also you'll notice next is the resizable, so we can increase in size if you want image a little bit too small and you want preview bigger. This is work. Down below you have the scale 10 meters, so we can switch to like 1 meter. It's very nice if you have it to smaller or bigger object, and reason because materials can be assigned positioning to the object or to the world, and based on this your scaling may change. In the preview mode you can attach to specific what object size you are about looking, and will give you more accurate type of the image. It's very important when you work like with displacements or normals. Also below you see this icon, it's like exclamation mark. It's meaning this preview is outdated. If you click on this, preview will update it, re-render how material looking, and the exclamation mark is gone. This is nice to know when you do modifications and you see they're not reflecting maybe in a preview. Notice if that symbol is there, it's meaning you need to re-render preview. Many times it will render by itself. However, depending on the settings on your machine or how powerful or other things, the Vu system maybe says, I don't want to utilize the resources to constantly rendering the stuff. So it will hold down and says, wait till you do this so you can click and render here. Okay, next to this we have the big window, and this window we can work with the different layers. If you work ever with Photoshop, Affinity or other things, many photo editing applications have an idea of the layer. Here is the same. So it's meaning you have it one layer and you can put on top and another one, and one on top, of course, that will affect the layer below. So they are stacking layers. You can create as many layers you want it. And of course the layers can be nested by itself. So it's quite a bit can be complex structure if you're doing. Also the layers can be represented by different type of materials. So for example, one layer can be very simple material, next layer can be your PBR material, next can be ecosystem material. You can mix almost all of them with exception of volumetric material. Volumetric material that we have it here does not like to be in layers. It's a very selfish layer, so it's want to be by itself. Okay, next to this we have its scale, and it is scale related to this specific layer. We also will have a global scale if we have more than one layer. We'll be showing next. And option of visibility, hiding, or highlighter. And I do like highlighters because highlighters let us color specific object or specific layer without modifying actually how material work on this layer. In this case, we can very easily identify. And you see me using these highlighters very often when we work like with ecosystem or other distribution systems because it's much easy and nice to see how it's work. If you want to change on the highlight, just right click, you'll see the color picker, select what color you want to be here, and there you go, you have it. Again, click one more time and it's disappear. It's cycling through 3 positions: visible, not visible, highlighter. Next to this, we have options to create new layers. It's like I said, see, we created new layer. And notice as I create new layer, scale now it's 10, and the scale is above 0.1. This, for example, 0.1 scale, it's applied to all layers below. One below, it's applied just to these layers. So let's look, for example, how scale will work. So we know if it says 0.1 and the next below 10, it's meaning relatively to the world or to the object, depending on mapping, this scale will be just 1 because 0, 1, and 10. We just need to divide and we have it 1. But layer below, because it's 1, it will be 0.1 scale. So be sure in the end, this is the inside relatively scale between them, and on the top it is global for this material. Okay, notice as I'm moving around, now we have those arrows, and arrows are allowed us to change positioning of the scale. So we can click type in or use an arrow. To move those layers, if you want to change position, then will be another arrows on our right side. And you notice right here, we click and it will move them up or down. So you can reposition your layer as you want it. Okay, we create new layer. We can load it new layers or materials even inside. So for example, if we click here, we're going to our materials. Let's go basic and we'll just select red. And notice right here, red plastic already loaded. It is kind of mixed around because it is alpha boost 0, which we'll look at later. But you can see how they all mix together and working. So you add additional layer. Of course, if you don't like it, you can delete the layer. You can also save your layer if you like it, or take a snapshot. And the snapshot allowed currently 2 snapshots, which is kind of work. If you work in progress and you create one layer and you want to take this layer and post it in another material, you can just take a snapshot of this, which is fill up, and after to put it, you just double time click and we'll apply this to this layer. So it's kind of very easy, nice, intuitive way to use it. Okay, we'll look on some of these options. Let's look before we proceed down to look through the all type of materials and everything. I want to cover one more things, and it is a mapping. Because that could be a little bit confusing if we look. Right now, you notice it says world standard. So let's go preload our checkerboard. There you go. We'll just use this one. And as default, it's loaded as object standard. Okay, we'll take our camera. We'll move just a little bit more away. We'll take our object and we'll duplicate. Duplicate is easy. Just hold Alt or Option key, click, drag, and place it. And we'll just duplicate the instance of this. Actually, it's 2 different objects. It's not same instance, it's 2 different instances. Okay, now let's go take our ground. And in the ground, let's go also apply checker. Well, let's open properties for our ground. And we can see material object standard. And it looks somewhat similar if you can see it. But let's switch different. Let's go says world standard. And what's happening with world standard? It's take XY position 0, 0 of the whole world. So let's go right here with XY of the world. and it's assign the mapping to the world position. So if I going and change scale, let's go scale to 1 example, you can see how it's changed on all world. The our objects, let's go open one, it's have it object standard. So the mapping of this material or its positioning starts and log to the object itself. If I'm going and take this object and I will move around, you can see it's nothing changed. The materials look exactly the same on an object and other things, so it does not change because it is assigned to the material, to the object itself. What's happening if I switch this to the world standard? And let's set to the 1 as well to match other ones. Look what's happening here. You'll notice now it's changed. Well, let's move our object. Before we move it, notice how the little bit black on the top, side, how the color distributed on our object. And if I'm going to move it, notice it's changed now the white and black on the side. So it's meaning our mapping of the color is changed based on the position of the object itself. Okay, let's switch a little bit like this. And you can see in this case it's kind of inverse, and that's the reason because our cube need to be rotated and adjusted. So in some cases we can play with the position, and let me rotate again. Notice doesn't change anything because how the mapping is work inside. We need to reverse some of the mapping on an object, which we can cover a little bit later. But generally you can see even we change object, and let's just rotate like this. You'll notice a rotate, but mapping of the material still exactly same. It does not change because our orientation of the mapping of material based on the world coordinates, not the object coordinates. What if I go as change right now? I decide go from world standard to object standard. And see how it's changed? Now it's applied. So what if I change my cube? Rotate a little bit. It does not change. And if I go move my cube around, the colors and mapping still exactly the same. You don't need to use exactly the same materials. We can also just going and change this material to maybe stripes, but keep it world standard in this case. And if we move it, you can see it's changing. Notice how it's changed now. As we move away, the stripes is changing because location right on the middle, yes. And of course, if we're going and change to the object standard and start moving, it does not change. So just for fun, let's go on the ground, you know what I mean, and let's change to similar position. So you can see right here is a center for our object. Okay, we'll go our cube, switch to world standard, and you can see how lines going from this, and if of course we're moving out, you see how the lines start going away a little bit more. And of course we can go change this to the object standard, and there you can see the different. So imagine it's like almost skin over an object moving under that skin and changing and applying this material. This has actually become very useful when you create a landscape. And for example, you create multiple mountains. You apply texture to the world mapping to like all surface. And after you can move the mountains, and as you're moving, they're still working with all same textures. So they're blending inside your global terrain very well. And if you notice, we have a little bit more than just two type of the mapping. The world standard will also, it's what we look at, just extend mapping. The cylinder will apply, if you shape a cylinder, it's a little bit better because some sides you need to stretch around, and the sides you kind of need a circle on the side, so like a can. Spherical will stretch a little bit different, so it just help. Usually if you select standard or parametric, it will try to work this automatically assign. The main difference in a standard and parametric, that standard is coordinate system. working with the X, Y, and Z is coordinates to the point of the horizontal plane. And parametric, it is try to take all materials and apply to the object. So it's a mapping coordinates that automatically adjusted such a way that they're independent on the size of the object. For example, it's best to use it if you want to take a picture and mapping to a specific object. So it will look on a coordinates on object positions and try to apply all materials to that current object. When you work with a terrain, and you notice in many cases when with the object, I will use it parametric because it's try to take all of my materials that created and apply to all the objects. Notice also when you do parametric, resizing one effect, it will just scale all the materials as well. Well, we kind of, when we're going play in the future with materials with different mapping, I think you may get it a little bit better handle, but generally you need only kind of worried about world or object, because that is one will assign the position of materials related to the world coordinates, and other ones work with the materials. And of course, as you're switching them around, use your eyes. If it does not look right, that is what most important, and we can fix it so it will look nice. Okay, we kind of done through all of this top, and we'll look a little bit more. Let's go right now reset our scene, and for this I'm going just to go ahead, File, New, and we'll just open brand new. Let's don't save this. We'll create again new cube so we can preview. Let's take our camera, move it out, and we'll take also cube and rotate a little bit. There you go. Let's look now on the properties, what we have inside our materials and what actual materials do we have. So we'll go open material editor as before, and below you can see we have color, alpha, bump, normals, displacement, ambient occlusion, highlights, transparency, reflection, translucency effects. We also can have it different tabs. Tabs may change different names depending on what type of the material we're using. Let's go start with a simple material right now. Color, we can change surface of the color. And if we click down on mode, it's have it constant, where we can select just simple color if we want it. We can also connect this to the graph, which is a little bit more advanced elements. Then we can have it complex, kind of like node system. Yes, we can connect and go directly from here. But you know what? Let's look on this in the advanced materials options when we work with this. But generally, you can select color here. When we have it mapped pictures, then we can go select any picture, include it even animated. We can do this. Select this specific picture, applied, and you can see the picture is applied to this. Notice it is locked to world standard. Wherever we using pictures, I would recommend to use the or object parametric list or object standard. And notice how it's stretched now, because it take all of this image and applied directly to all our object. And if you have a seamless image, that will work very, very good. What is in this case? You see how it's natural looking. As we select image, you have options around the image. One, to open and load image is what do by default. Delete our layer or image we uploaded. Image rotation, and you can see we can actually rotate like 360 degree. Flip it vertically, horizontally. We can also go in and select our output on a workflow. So it's a color like 1.8, 2.2. So it's what area, how we work with the image properties. We also can inverse, and they work very well when we start working more with alpha maps. So we can inverse this. Mapping mode, currently automatic. Most time it's work very well, but if have it some problems, you can map it this specific image to the automatic flat faces only, which is will go face to the object you imported. This is work if you utilize, like for example, UV map or other things very well. Cylinder, spherical, trigonal, conical, and automatic UV if you have UV maps applied. Scale of the image right now 1 1. If we reduce to, for example, 0.5 halfway, you can see it's kind of squishy because it is in one side. If we're increasing, for example, 10, let's go very dramatic, you can see how it's stretching. You can change your scale and you don't need just stretch, or you can generally increase, decrease the resolution on this. But right here is your scale of the image. Image offset from the center. Currently, if I do offset, we won't see that much different. For example, if you offset 0.2, you can see offset, but because we're using bricks there in the tile, you cannot see it. But this works very well if you take some image, like maybe you want to put a spray logo on the wall. Yes, you create layer, you took it, you upload it there, and then you can put it out. So you know what, let me show you. Right here we have a new image. We'll go switch to mapped picture. Let's go just select maybe this one. Yeah, let's do that. Well, you'll notice it's uploaded everywhere. We'll go scale this to 0.3 on one way, 0.3 on another way, and of course it's repeating. We don't need repeat. Yes, let's go ahead, select here tiling mode once, so you can see it's applied this way. And now we can also scale, so offset 0.5, and you can see it's moved this way. If we want to put in a corner, because we're using 1 1, if we put it 1, it's put it to the side here. Use Y1, and let's put it in our corner. Of course, it does not utilize alpha because we need to apply alpha to make layer below visible on this case. And currently alpha is just a black, so we cannot see it, but we can apply same alpha with the image to this. And it will be have semi-word transparent, because currently alpha also will apply a little bit on the words and other things, but there's general idea how it's work. Well, let me remove right now alpha because we're not yet there. Okay, this is layer. Let's delete this layer. We don't need it, but the idea of this, you can create, scale, and reposition work very well with materials in this case. Okay, let's go next below, and notice right here it's actually showing kind of funny precaching what we had before. Okay, we have it also show manipulation gizmo, and in this case, if you want it, you can also select and just do by hand here. So you can also just readjust. You can see how I'm moving, or work in your gizmo directly, and see I'm just gonna reposition. Sometimes it's a little bit work easy if you work with different images. Okay, I think my image something cached. Let me open this back to our original image, and because I did move it around, I want to go 0 0, reset everything. Okay, let's try again. Okay, show manipulation gizmo, and right there you can see I kind of moved gizmo image around. Let's cancel this. Okay, very useful when you want to put an image and you just want to place by hand on where you want it. They also have it below color corrections, which allowed us to select overall color. So you don't, for example, want to go change image, but you maybe want to make this a little bit greenish or reddish. Overall color, you can slightly apply it, and you can see it does change color of our image. Okay, I think my gizmo still be affecting. That is nutty gizmo. And we also can blend with the color. The color blend, if you imagine, it does not change hue of the image itself. It will apply image or color on the top, and depending on this, you can have how much blend of this color in. For example, if we're going and select purple, and currently it's 0, and we can apply it, and you can see how slowly it will start blending with our previous layer to almost 100%. Again, it does not necessarily override the color itself, but it's try to blend by the value. Very nice way to create a little bit of set and maybe add more depth to the color of the image you're working. nice options on this. And the options you also can driven by functions. Many of these functions you can do that. Our next options, it is procedural color. And this is colors can be driven by function. Example, let's select different type of the color map, and we can just double time click to open collections of the maps, color maps that you can create it. And we'll go select rainbow one. Or if you right click, edit color map, and you can modify by yourself what colors you wanted to select. That is useful functions if you try to apply, for example, for altitude. And of course, because it can be driven by functions right here, as I said, we can map it, that function, to the altitude of the object, and it will be changing this way. I'll just show you very fast without going into too much details, because this is subject for a little bit more advanced material editing. But general right here, you can select colors. You can see the input for the colors, and you can select add of the position to our object. Okay. And of course, based on position of our object, then you know what, let's switch to the world standard. Yes, because object won't change itself. But as we're moving, and you can see the colors is also changing because it's based on object on the world position. But you can notice we can change this way, for example, based on altitude or shape, angle, like anything, yes. And based on that, we can apply different materials like terrain materials or the water or some other properties. So this way we can modify it. And it's, you don't necessarily need to do this way. You can always just go and select different type of material already pre-made, like for example, kind of nice sandy ground, I think. Let's go apply to the object centered for now. And there you have it, procedurals made. Again, if we look on a function how it's work, you'll notice it's have a lot of stacking stuff here, but it's a many different nodes and they work together. Let me clean up a little bit of this mess here. And we'll just very fast to readjust them. And you can see it's just work with a fractal function, which is create digital random noise, and using this noise applying to colors to distribute those in different ways. And right here we can see this is our mixer, this is our colors, and they're going with the functions connecting to this. Okay, don't get scared. I just don't want you to get scared with all that stuff, because when we go progress to this, you'll notice after time it's very easy. You'll understand, but I know first look could be a little bit scary. Okay, so let's preview what we have here. We have our procedural colors. Same things, we have it scale and also overall colors. So if you like it but you don't want mess, there you go, we switch to the greenish color, so you can change the general hue kind of this object. And below, natural grain. I use it almost all the time, natural grain. It's one of the fast and nice and more natural way to actually give it this look of the ground, maybe grass cover or other things. Natural grain, you'll notice it's provide for us a different two colors. So we have some limitations, only two colors, but we can select, for example, color of dying grass first, and we can enable use two colors. Let's select second color, and right here we can go and select a little bit darker green. Our noise scale, so you can see noise, it's applied those gradients, it's how noisy on the scale. Roughness, we can increase it, is reduce some feathering between two different colors, or how smooth transition will be, and sometimes if it's blend you just don't see those details. Balance between two materials. We also have distortions applied. Generally, it's just a balancing of those two. And of course, if you have an alpha grain, we can apply this. Let's go a little bit that way. There you go. I think this will look a little bit better. And you can see with the blending, it's create kind of like a natural grain. Actually, I don't like necessarily that green one. Yeah, it's too bluishy green. A little bit more. There you go, natural green. Okay, and same thing. So you have your overall color. If you select it, you can change here very fast to different ones. Well, I don't want to change it right now. But anytime if you change, you can right click and says reset color, and it will go back to your normal color. This is about all about color tab. I know it's a lot of stuff there, but you know what? Just play around. In many cases, what personally I'm using mapped picture, some procedural color, natural grain. So they're very simple, 4 of them, and you can modify them. Okay, let's go next to our alpha. And alpha, you'll notice we have it different. We have it procedural or mapped picture. Mapped pictures, it's when you can select some picture, select like right here, pre-done. And you want to use it? No. Okay. And you can see is applied because we used world object standard, so it's actually take this and apply to all object. If we want to stretch to everything, we'll need to switch to object parametric or change scale. And you notice right here we have it wholly materials because we're using as a cube, and this material will apply on each side of the cube. So it's what we see around here. But we can use a single plane if we want to do just a sign. Notice a lot of stuff is very similar, so you won't be like overwhelmed with all these different options. For example, on the image, we have it exactly the same: load, delete, rotate, flip, alpha, and image properties accessing. We have a similar mapping mode as before: scale, image offset, and also image rotations now, so we can rotate image, but general all stuff is same. Interpolation, that is a little bit different from before. In interpolations, when you add image anti-aliasing or other elements, the pixelizations could be visible very much. So interpolations help us to avoid some of those pixels that coming to the screen. Bilinear work very well. You can try to work different bicubic a little bit more stronger if you have too much pixelization, or the squares like pixels start popping up. In a high resolution textures, most time you won't see this, but if you're using low resolution textures, then you may see this problem. And primarily if you use like JPEG low resolution with high compress, then you will see definitely the problem there. Okay, also we have the repeat mode, and you saw before you can repeat this multiple times or just use it one. And also our manipulation gizmo. So it's a very straightforward way we can do this. Beside mapping pictures, we can also use the procedural. And procedural, it's as similar as before. We can go right there. Let's go to select our basic. And you can see it is creating almost like a smoke or something, kind of very interesting. This is used quite a bit often when you overlay one layer on top of another. For example, let's go to say not to this. Okay, color. We'll go to reset our color here, and we'll go create new layer. Okay, and this new layer will go again natural grain. And let's see, let's use it 2 materials, and we'll select one darker, so it's look kind of cool looking. Right there, roughness, scale. So we'll just add this kind of material. Well, it's color, and we have it grass below, but what if I want to add rocks? If we now go to alpha, and we're using as procedural, so let's select this. Look what's happening. Now you see how our layer mix nicely with another. So we have 2 layers, and we have it mixed between them. Of course, we can modify this function, how it's work. We can apply different type of the procedurals, different function like cells, rocks, other things. You can go very complex with this, or you can have it image. But general alpha, which allowed us to create this transparency. Transparency in alpha is too little bit different, because think about this, as the transparency or as alpha will cut elements inside, we can control gradient of how much it is transparent. I know it's confusing, yeah, transparency alpha. But in alpha, think about it's more cutting off without affecting, but in transparency mode, we actually can affect how light's passing through those cutoff areas. So it is like a transparency, it's a glass, and then alpha, it's a cut through. Because in a transparency, we can modify the refraction index. So it's like a glass almost will be transparent. And alpha, we just take a knife and we cut a little bit places or holes there. Okay, you can see how our materials become cool looking right now. Yes, we have this like sand or ground kind of elements, and we have a grassy elements. And because they're both using this natural grain mix, so technically we have 4 different colors right now interacting between each other. Okay, let's leave it there. And alpha is kind of fun to play. Let's go now to the bump map. Also, before I'm going to bump, you'll notice on top, on every layer, we have an alpha boost. And it's how much this layer will also affect or permanent. So by default 0%, if we're going to 100%, it will be more up. Or if you don't want it on a global, you can go to the 0 and you can see it's disappear. So you can just play around, emphasize or more or less, but 0 it is will be default. Okay, bump map. Let's look what we have here. And you can see we have a mapped picture of procedural similar with alpha. And bump maps, what it does, it is have it perception, I can say this, of the uneven surface or bumps on a surface. We work with 3D objects here, but in reality we work in 2-dimensional representations of 3-dimensional space. For us to understand the bumps or highlights, bumps or down, what I call those things, holes, that we only can recognize by shadows and highlights. And that's what happened here. The engine will analyze lights and analyze the effect of the bumps and creating simulation of the bumps. It does not, bump map does not change shape of the surface or object at all. It just give it these representations of the shadows and highlights to simulate of some of those. So it's example, let's go ahead and we'll just map picture, we'll set before, let's go with procedural straightforward. And I'm going to preload, and let's preload one which we had used it before. Notice how grinchy the surface got in some areas. And it is because I applied some of these maps. Black will apply shadows down and white up. And also it's not just apply dark and white this way. The engine work with calculating of the light rays, how the heating and reflection. So the bump map will change if I rotate or adjust my object, and they will correspond directly to the lighting. So if you can see where we have shadows on the side with our light, let me move around, select maybe sun right here. And if we take our sun and move on the opposite side of ours, notice how the shadows here changing as well on those bump maps. So they will reflect position or where is the light coming, and they will recalculating. So they're not just a faking, they really kind of try to simulate this, but they do not affect the shape of our object. Well, let's go back to edit our object. Right here we have it, our switch. There you go. You'll notice sometimes bump maps is actually a very fast and nice way to create some shapes. And because it does not change, it takes much faster to calculate on our engine. I usually create a bump map to simulate like a far distance grass, rocks work excellent. They don't take any computing time almost, and it's look very good. But be careful, because if you give it too much value, they become look very ugly and unnatural, just too grinchy kind of. In many cases, I found out also myself to drop down to 0.5, 0.3, which create a little bit kind of nicer. You could go in the negative values and then it just flip them. Yes, what was down will go up and kind of like rework. Right here you can see as we flip, Now grass kind of black ones going, or white going down. And if we go opposite, they kind of look like they're on top. So it's just a play with this. Let's go put it 0.1, just a little bit. And you can see it's got a nice look on this. Okay, we also, let's look fast what we have here. We have our procedurals, what we have before. We have it scale for this procedural. We have it also filter. We did not have filter before. Filter is allowed us effect, says on which area and how much of the value will affecting of procedural to our materials. So let's go ahead, we'll right click edit, and you can see the linear on every one from -1 to 1 on the, think about affecting the black or white, yes, on a scale, because this is lowest point and this highest point of the affecting. Kind of like black right here on the procedurals, it will be on the bottom, and white will be on the top. So if I go select point here and just double click to add points, and if I add those points, and I'll say, you know what, let's put this on the middle like this. So what I tell to do, and you can see some areas will flood, I say everywhere where is a gray, just almost set to this specific value. So it's almost, we'll have it like low, then go to specific middle, have it flat creating, and again high. So in this case, you can create kind of transparent. For example, if I say I want just to keep a top same, so it does not go up, just flatten, I can take top and flatten them up like steps, and this will look like almost, see how the grass right here, this green, it's look very flat, but the lowest one was black color. Those lowest areas, they now still distorted. So in this case, you can almost take rust in the metal. Just if you imagine this is where's a brown, it will be rusty, and it's paint materials, so you don't want materials kind of bumble on top, so you can have a very nice smooth material, but the rust can be more distorted and bump map. So you can see how it can work, and the filters will allow us to do this. Notice as filters, let's look very fast what we have here. We have our grid, if we need display on off, hard curve versus, you can create a soft kind of curves if you need it, you know, more natural looking. Of course, if you have a soft curve, you can work with the different joints, moving them out. Snap to the grid, zoom in out, flip vertically. You have a key point. Key point you can just select and click delete key, and it will delete them. Or you can also just delete it from here. You can also add additional points from positioning, or just double time click, it will add the points as well. And by the way, there's how we can go fix this back. Woo, look on this. There you go. Okay, we also can control slopes. So if you like work by the numbers, same things, you can use the graphical representations here. If you have any bounds or output clipping, you can also change and modify them here. General, it is filters. You'll notice this type will be true all over applications. So wherever you see filters and you go and modify, this is interface you'll see. So it will be exactly the same type of the interface. Okay, let's go cancel because I don't want to modify. I just want to leave it default, but just let you, here's filters. And by the way, if you just left click, double click, then you open collection of the filters. And look right here, you have a lot of different of all of this type of the filters, which already pre-made, and you can use them. Time spline, for example, it's tell you these same filters you can use it for animations. So it's like bouncing stuff or other things. Terrain profile filters, splines, durations. So it's kind of explaining. You can create your own. You can create your own splines that use maybe like rust metal or some other ones and put it here and utilize in your other projects. Of course, if you want to add, you can just click plus, and this way you can create your new collections. Call my collections. If you already have a folder where it's located, we can browse. Otherwise, you just click OK. Well, of course, it did not find, did not create it, but if you have a folder, it will just create and put them there. It's okay if you have an empty folder, it will just create it. You also can just navigate, click on open and navigate to other locations if you have it. Okay, well, let's go ahead, just kind of remove this one. We'll go back here, procedural bumps. Okay, let's go just restore what we have it, 0, 2. Oh, actually, I created a new layer. I don't want to create new layer. Did I? Yeah, let's go to destroy that one. I think I'm messing up, but you know what cool things about messing up? We can restore very easy. If for some reason you delete it, press Ctrl Z or Command Z, and it should, you can see, restore your original settings. I do recommend to go and set up undo commands. If you don't know how, please watch the other videos before this when we gone through the options and customizations. Next, we're going to look on the normals. In a simple way, personally, again, it's personal opinion, I think normals, it's a bump maps on steroids. They are utilizing the many cases image. I mean, you remember, image may look like purplish with bluish and reddish line. So in the image, have it encoded information of the surface, and it is encoding information like appearance, bumps, scratches, wrinkles, all this information that can be encoded there. And because it is part of the image, it is can map it with UV coordinates and other things. It does a little bit newer, and in some cases you can say bumps will do similar to the normals, but if you're using properly texture with creation, then it's a little bit more information than just a bump map. Okay, let's actually work with this and look. And you can notice right here we have it mapped pictures. I don't necessarily have it mapped pictures. In this case, I use it. We need to use special map pictures. But what we're going to use instead of just that path, we're going to use it procedurals. Here's interesting things inside the view. If I open procedurals, like in bump maps, I go click. Let's try this. So if I go select, and I'm going said, okay, let's use this one. Yes. Notice what have it. It says incompatible data types. Because in some application before it may work, now it does not connect it properly. However, we need to do some conversions because it's required in special format as an image output. So we need to do conversions. That okay. What are we going to use it? It is our function editor. We're going to double click, right click and select edit. You'll notice right here we open, and here's our output. This is our normal node which connect constant. If we're going over, you'll notice it is vector. So it is type of the vector is what expecting. When we try to map it non-vector, it's giving us errors. Like right here, we try to go and connect our output from Granny, which is number. And number is a single, and vector, we need to provide X, Y, Z. So the expecting, and it's a vector is what encoding inside the image. Well, we can also just do same things. We can say like from bump map, and this is beautiful about new view. If we go to connect here, you'll notice it's add for us composer, and composer it take inputs. In this case, all what we have it. Let's extend only X composer. We don't have Y and Z, and convert this to our normals. We're kind of cheating because we have it only one value. General, it will expect X, Y, and Z, all of these parameters. We could also make more complex, just okay, just add more kind of ridiculousness to this point if we want to do, or we can just delete it. You can play around and create other things, but if you need it to create, you can also connect this way. Okay, we have our intensity, and let's just reduce, and you can see right here we have the preview. So in some cases it is work about similar to our bump maps. So let's reduce it. We also parameters link intensity to object scale. So if object change size, the intensity of normals will change. We can invert. And this is important if you have it. It wasn't really standard. Sometimes when they create it, like Maya and some other ones, Cinema, I think they have it inverse type of which color use it for what, up or down. So that way you can kind of change if it's inversed, because say some wasn't total standard and some them using different coloring, so sometimes you need the inverse if it does not look right. Okay, we will use it normals. I'll let you know forward. We will use it in a project because I do have it special textures that utilize all of these properties so we can use them. And as I said before, because normals I do personal things, it's a bump maps on steroids that work a little bit better, so we'll use a little bit more of them. Okay, let me go disable this because I don't want to mess up with mine bumps, and we'll go to displacements. Displacement, it is if I say normals, it's bumps on steroids. Displacements, it is a normals on the ultra steroids. So because it's actually changed the shapes of the object. Let's look right here. You can see we have it straight lines. Okay, let's go change, and the same we have it map pictures and procedurals. Yes, we'll go with procedurals, and I'm going to preload this procedural right here, same as before, and look what's happening to our object. You see how it's all changed shapes? Because displacement, it's take those polygons and change actual shape or our object based on this. And displacement is very cool because we can also create a rock formations out of the blobs, out of the cylinders or other things. Right now it's very heavily affecting because we can see breaking line, everything, because our depth it's 4, 5, but our object is only 1 meter or something, so of course it's one. Actually, you know what, let's check this. Let's see how big is our object. We select cube, we're going in properties, and we can see it's 6 meters by 6 meters, our object. And a 1 meter is affecting. It's quite, well, I don't think 4 meters. What does it say? Wow, 4.5. That is a huge effect, yes. So let's go ahead, change, and we'll just go by default. If you type 1, it's going to meter, and you can see right here, it's a little bit better, but I still think it's a little bit too deep for this. And we'll just go to 50 centimeters. Okay, we'll just change. That's better. So we can modify the displacement on an object. We can move around, base it on what we have in our function or in our image. Okay, let's look what we have here. We have our functions. Below we have its scale, filter. We're kind of already familiar with filter and everything. Next we have our depth. It's what we did modify a little bit here. We have our smoothing, and that smoothing, it is give this better transitions between those areas. So if we increase our smoothing, we should reduce some of the breaking line, just a little bit nicer looking. So if you have it very much sharp edges, you don't want it, you can add a little bit smoothing. Boost quality, it's how many mesh, how better will apply to this. Almost any time when you apply better quality, it will create more natural look, realistic, but it is come with the price of the render time. We also have it right now along the normals. Remember what I was saying about the normals. If we have it, we can go along there. We can also go vertical, horizontal, or just normal map, so you can apply to all different. For example, if you want to effect only vertically, so let's go ahead, change on vertical, and you can see right here sideways a horizontal does not change anything, only on vertical. Maybe it's work when you like creating water effect and you want displacement in your water effect or some other, or you don't care about sides, then you can create this way. Or if you want to create a very cut off like ground, you know how people sometimes do, so you can do with this effect only verticals, not horizontals in this case. So just play around with this. Same if we do with horizontals, it will affect on the sides, but top should be all flat for us. Okay, so we have normal, customs, and all this. I'm just going to set along normals right now, just in all directions we have it. Displace outward, so it won't dig in. This will be just only like bumps out. And you can see right here where it was cutting down, it's kind of make flat, and it just make only a little bit up. This is help sometimes if you create rock, but you don't want rock shrink and create some weird instance. Sometimes outwards only will work and create much pleasant looking rock in this case. And affect all channels if you have it like alpha channel, transparency, in many cases ecosystem or some other ones, so it will affect that one as well. and apply additional bumps. That's what we have it, so we will apply them as well. You know what, let's go even make smaller, and I use it scale, and I'll just go to 5.6, so just not very much, but just a little bit affecting. And because I'm using same as before map, so it will utilize on top of our bumps. It's also change a little bit shapes. 5.6 too small. Now let's go higher, because this is actually 6 meters. It's quite a bit cube. Okay, next we have subdivisions. It is when subdivisions mean add more polygons if it's required. And we have it limitations, so it does not go crazy, because sometimes if we have very extensive displacement and add all these polygons, may have some problem performance, so then you can limit it. And again, depends on the slope. If you create slope and you want to apply just only maybe on side of the wall or a side on the top, so you can apply this, depends on the slope, and also how much underlying effect. So if you have two displacements layers, you can see how they will work. Replace it or add. For example, I have another layer with different displacement, and I can say add this displacement on top. Think about this: if a layer below have a bigger, like more round, bigger things for the rock, and I want to add like sand green on the top, I can say add to top of other layer, so it will create like layering more detailizations on top of other displacements. Okay, we'll just keep it on replacement here. And displacement's very fun. We'll work quite a bit with this when we're going to create custom arches. And I have another video you can go check. It is, I think, called Power or Meta Blobs, something like this. And there we actually was using displacement to create this kind of fun, realistic look. Displacements could be fun, and also just let you know, it could be frustration, because sometimes you're creating and it does not look right, because they look like broken angles, does not fit properly, everything. It does require a little bit more experience to play and set kind of stuff. And I saw some creators create beautiful with displacement. I mean, crystals, rocks, I mean, they look jaw-dropping quality on them. And it's all taking a little bit more experience. So don't get discouraged if the first one you work with displacements give you kind of headache, give you problems, not result you wanted. This is one which requires a little bit more explorations, a little bit more work around. And cookie cutter or just formulas, they do exist, and we will give it a little bit later just to try it. But those specific click there, you know, they're good maybe for 1, 2, for follow, but it's never replaced your real explorations when you do by yourself. Okay, let's remove displacement right now. Displacement will affect render time. Next, we look ambient occlusions. And ambient occlusions, it's a big information for the lighting. You know, work if you have a material where lights followed, and you want to create a little bit more kind of how light interacts, so you can enable this and you can work ambient occlusion from the image. Many times when you create ambient occlusion will come as an image when you create material, or also you can utilize as procedures what we saw. And in some cases, I'll tell you a little trick what I like to do. When I use displacement material and it's have a very cool form, I also use that same function for ambient occlusion, and it's emphasize some of this area, make them look better with lighting. So you can do same. And if you want to do this, remember, you just edit function, yes, as we did before, and just drag and drop and connect. Done deal. There you go. Now we have our ambient occlusions, bake it, and you can see right here some little bit shadows work a little bit better in this case. So just you know, kind of fun things to do. Okay, highlights. Highlights is representing when lights come and reflecting and create those area of highlights. General, we have it different GGF or Pong. Usually Pong will be set by default. Color of what color of the highlight will be affecting there. We have it intensity, lower or high intensity of the spot. So if you get very high, you can see there will be right here highlights will appear. We also have it global size. Shiny, for example, let's make smaller, yes, or dual, it's a spread bigger. In some cases, you can say if you want to create like simulate reflective metal, you probably want a little bit more shiny, smaller one, and you want brightness. or if you want to create a very dual kind of look, some more organic, very diffuse light, you can have it with this parameter. And of course, astrophic is how much light distorted or highlights will be spread around. Notice you have it constant. It's what we work right now. Mapped pictures or procedural, same. We can use it, same procedurals for our highlight. Same things, we'll just can go ahead, select one if you wanted this highlights, select maybe two different color. Okay, we can have it intensity pop up, shining right here, and base it on ours. You can see we have it highlights on the edges right here, just a little bit. So just kind of more fun things you can work and apply together. We also have the filters for our intensity and size. So remember, with size will apply to the global, this how much dual or more point to the shine, and intensity, so same properties, and we can work with procedures on the highlights. Okay, let's go ahead, and next as we speak, it's transparency. Transparency, it is not alpha. You remember, alpha it's where we cut off, and transparency it's like a glass where we can change. And transparency, we can create our own water layer. And nice things about transparency of material is going through all material in this case. So if we can go and create like underwater scene, we'll just go and switch to transparency. So for example, let's get transparency about on these materials 100%. Oh, we have one underlaying. Yes, we do. So for this one top layer, and you see how transparency is changed, so we don't see anything. However, if we change the refraction index to 133, which is about water, I think, then you can see we can kind of start seeing this because it's like a little bit water. It's very hard to see on a mixed materials. You know what? Let's do this way. We'll just go to disable this one. Okay, we'll click OK. Let's go create a new material for us here. Where's my new material? That is my new material. We'll take our old, move on the side, new materials, come over here. Okay, and we'll go to open our new material, only one layer. We'll go to transparency. Let's set transparency to 100%. Boo, it disappeared. So next we want to add a refraction index. Refraction index is when light come and change directions inside our object. So we're going to change 133, about there. And look, now it's become slightly visible because the light refracted a little bit different. Water 133 or glass? I think it's glass 133. Nope, I was right. Water 133. I was just gone on a magic Google and just verify there. Yes, I was right. Water is 1.33 and a glass is 1.52. So a little bit higher. But okay, we'll have it as a water, 133 here, but it is clear. So some properties of this will allow us to change this. For example, we can go fade out, and fade out right now it's clear, but we can say fade out color and lighting. So if we have it more murky, look what's happening as we're going. The color is just changing because light absorption. So, and we change more, and there you go. You can see it's a little bit more changing like inside the water. We also can change appearance of the blurriness. It's as lights passing through. Okay, turn with the reflective. This is kind of very nice on the waves when you create and lights bouncing from the top. We can say turn a reflective on what degrees. So for example, if you create water layer and you create a swamp, and for example in a swamp you want kind of have a not that shiny look, take the turn reflective angle and reduce, and then you will have it more kind of murky looking. Or if you have it very nice waves and shiny, then increase, and it will lights bounce, then you have it better highlights. So they turn this kind of work very well in this case. Okay, flare of the light, the reflection, intensity, and span. We also have the effect which can apply to materials. Look at this. If we click fuzzy, it's changed. It's become fuzzy object. We can have it also adaptive and thin surface, if it's just one thin surface on the top somewhere. But for us, we'll just keep it all right here. The next we also have it, it's called absorption and scattering. That was adding a little bit later, and that is allowed us to create, let me just cancel this one. so we can open again. And that one was adding version 9, I think, which is have it a little bit more realistic work on the surface. So let's go ahead. We'll set transparency 100%, refraction 1.3, about there. Well, there you go. Okay, absorption scattering, if we enable, you can see it's kind of disappear because we need set what depth. Our cube is 4 meters, yes. So definitely we want to set maybe 1 meter or something. Now it's become a little bit more visible. We can say what is absorption color we want it. Let's go a little bit more bluish absorption, and we'll have it scattering color. And as a scatter, let's go brighter this color. You can see it because scattering, it's opposite of this red. So I think maybe scattering, yeah, let's go to this color. Should give us a little bit more bluish here on the scattering. And we have it also backward like this applied. You can see how we can create very interesting materials with this. It's not yet volumetric, but it's getting closer to this. Let's disable this way. 1.3. I want to do this way, murky. And the reason why I want to do this, so if we take our cube, let's increase in size, and we're going inside our camera, you can see we actually can go and create like inside the water. And this is cool way to create, effect. So let me go very fast, just showing what we can do. So we can put it lights. And also what I want to do, let's take our camera, disable after exposure. Now we can go in our water cube. It's this one. Yes. And we can just decrease murkiness. And you can see how we can create little like real underwater look. Of course, it will take a little bit more play around and set up. But in many cases, it's what I like it. I like it like this setup, and you can see like we create almost underwater scenery. Very cool way to do this. Well, okay, let's go back to our cube and our transparency. So beside that, of course, on your transparency layer, we can utilize the mapped pictures, procedurals if we need it with the drawing options. Like right here, you can see it's already applied. So it is similar ways as we worked before, but options general will be have it about same as above. We'll go to constant and let's remove it. Okay, we have a transparency. Let's go to reflections. Reflections will do similar things as with the like mirroring. For example, we can increase global reflectivity, and because we're utilizing one of the layer, you see now this layer is reflective. Some question will come up, what if I want to create a material as a metal? In this case, you can have your global reflectivity increase, but color is gone. To make it look more metal, you actually need to jump to another areas like effects, and you can see reflection and effects. And effects right here, you have it color reflect metal. Increase this to 100, and now you will have it color represent from this, so it will be look like more metallic surface, not just a mirrored surface. And I know they're different because they're kind of not really related, but just like, you know, if reflection and you want to create like metallic look, be sure you go in effects and change that as well. So same things we can change here. And by the way, you'll notice these symbols on the side. That's meaning we can click and we can assign the function. This can be driven by functions if we need it. And it's when you connect it, it says global reflection is connected. So in this case, it's mean this is modified by functions itself. Well, let's uncheck it right now. Same we have it blurriness, because if we don't have it blurriness and global reflectivity, it will act as a mirror, just reflect everything. If you add blurry, it just little bit diffuse, scatter this reflections make. Sensitivity to the angle, when we set angle, how much reflectivity will work. And of course, if we done this, we now have it minimum reflectivity on angles away. We also have option to reflection map, which is kind of nice, because if you create object like a shiny robot, yes, or a sphere in this case. Well, okay, let's do this way. Let's actually create our sphere. Beautiful, beautiful sphere. And we're going inside and we'll go to reflection. We have 100% reflective. You'll notice it's a boring reflection. Yes. What if I don't want to reflect? Everything is there. Then I can make my reflection map. I'll go upload it. Let's go select the world. And you can see right here we have our reflection map set as a world. Of course, we can readjust, positioning, everything, and of course set angles, like example. Let's preview right there. There you go. You can see how much sensitivity to this going. So then we can work with this. Remember what I said before, we need to set like reflectivity metal if you want to do this, or add additional properties. It's worked very well, but we need to apply also lighting, ambience, and everything. It's why sometimes look a little bit darker when we set the reflectivity map. But in general, it is very fun and easy way to add environmental to your object. So remember, if you do this, you have another options to do this. We can do through the camera to add like global image, and that will also work in our reflective objects. About reflectivity, if we put 2 mirrors and we try to reflect, you will notice those reflections will work only so many steps. It's because the in applications 3D, how they generated, you don't want to do for infinity. You don't want keep on rendering these reflections. So in its many times, it's said how many times photon or a tracer ray can bounce from each other and cut off on this. You have options where you can set this. We'll look a little bit later in those way in the render options we can set how many times it bounces. But just let you know, if for some reason you're going to create 2 surfaces, okay, for example, let's go create just 1 cube. We'll flatten down, we'll put it behind the camera, yes, and let's put another one up front of the camera like this too. We'll select 2 of those, and you know what, I'm just going to select mirror, and you can see it is reflecting right here, and I see gray box. It's a stop reflecting, because it says bounce it 5 times, bounce it 3 times, whatever we set in the render options, and after this add stop it. So don't panic, nothing wrong with this. It just, if you want to reflect more, you need to go in options and change, because currently you can see it is reflecting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Yeah, it's about right, 5 times. It's what's set by default. Okay, wow, that video getting quite a bit long. Well, we'll look on our reflections. We actually don't need them right now. Next, we have a translucency. Different between transparency and translucency. Transparency, it's change angle of the light. It's reflective. Translucency, it's when light going inside, hit the surface and split it, and split again, and create this kind of glow. In some cases, think about this. Transparency, it is a glass. Translucency, it's a candle, it's a wax. So in this kind of get very nice, because translucency, it's what the skin look. Sometimes you look on maybe a skin and you say it does not look real, because it doesn't have its subsurface scattering. It does not have this little bit light penetrated and make a little bit glowing. And that is why you want to use a translucency. Translucency also work for many other objects very nicely. So let's say right here we want to do on this our object. We'll just create brand new, yes. Let's move this away. Let's go create cylinder. Maybe shorter. There you go. I think the cylinder will work. We'll go ahead and add material editor in translucency. We'll enable subsurface scattering, and look at how it's bright it is, because it's a little too big, because it says average depth 10 meters, it means penetration of the light 10 meters, but our object, it's only 4 or 5 meters. Okay, let me see how is our object. 9 meters. Okay, so what we want to do is decreasing. If we have it like, for example, 6 meters, You can see how it's darker right now getting because light's coming from our left side. It's where we put it, our sun, and it's going through, and as sun going, dissipating and disappearing here. So let's go even reduce to like 4 meters. Now you can see how it's coming. It's like a wax working, yes. See how it's bright here, and as it's going, light get absorb, and it's become darker. Let's go even more. Let's go to like 2 meters. That is even look better. You can see how white on side and here. Well, you know what? Absorption color, white. Let's switch to a little bit more. Let's go switch to maybe like yellowish color. And you can see right here a little bit better. At is going and see kind of getting there. The main problem with the it is first, it will take a long time to render because it's need to generate all of those rays as they're coming, splitting around and everything. So it's need going and generate. So it's take quite a bit render time. But beside that, you may have a problem. If your quality is low, you'll have it grain. You have it those grain, and grain is happening because just imagine, like before with mirroring, you have it only so many steps application will generate. And the reason is you don't want generate forever or it's take too much resources. So if it's light going, hit one and it's split and create another and so on, you know, just split. After, for example, 5-6 steps, it says, okay, it's enough, stop doing this. And of course, as the light's going through, it does not hit some of this area, it's a stop calculating, and it's creating grain because it was inconsistent maybe from particle close to next. This particle was calculated, this does not calculate it, and you have a disturbance in a coloring and everything. And that's why we have this problem with the grain. To fix this, first, you can always increase the quality of the boost. And you can see as we're increasing, it's even here become much smoother and better colors. Not the perfect, but better. It is come with a price of render time. So it is always you pay price with something. You can also going inside the render and modify how many times particles can calculate it. So you have multiple ways we can do this. But first, always try to just go and create quality from here, because this way it's not just a calculating how many times, it will also apply anti-aliasing and some apply other to this to calculate a little bit better. And this probably will be the fastest. Beside this option, quality boost will apply just to this material. So if you have some material which utilize same translucency, but it's located far away, and you will never see that grain on that object, if you do in global render, that will apply to everywhere. But if you do just per this material, it will apply only to this material. So it's definitely save the time for you. Okay, also we have it absorptions with anisotropic with a backward or forward, and you can see it's a little bit more highlight when we're going to the backward. If we're going more forward, we have a little bit more in a shadowing. So they play around. And many times just the middle, as I said by default, work very well, except if you maybe think intensity on the too much on absorptions, you can go back and just a little bit increasing, and you can see how it's pushing a little bit absorptions a little bit better other ways. You saw I changed already our absorption filter, and as light going, it's absorbed to this color. The better representation, if we get a little bit more solid color in this way, then you can see how it's absorptions. Also notice filter will apply to our shadow color dropping as well. And we have it scattering, which hit it and go around. Let's switch scattering to like darker blue. Okay, and we'll switch this back to the white. And you can see there's scattering. It doesn't mean scattering going outside, it will go in same direction as is going propagate with our absorption. But in many cases you can have it like scattering maybe a little bit more lighter than absorption. So in this case, if we have it scattering and I want to create warmer, I may create just a little bit lighter, and I go inside here and I create a little bit more saturated, darker. Then I will have a little bit more interesting effect on the smoothness as well. You can try play with the coloring, see which one is work better in your case. But in general, my absorption will be a little bit darker and more saturated versus my scattering, but it's personal preference, and it will change depending on what material you're creating. Of course, you can create a variable depth. This is work cool if you want inconsistency creating, as we've done before. And you can see right here now depth is affecting quite a bit ours in creating. And of course, if you want to create a realistic material, the depth will be, you want to apply maybe not so dramatic, but it will create kind of darker, lighter areas, like right here in this example. And it's actually a very good example showing on this variable depth, which is just replacing our depth on this. You still have your average depth, which is applied. And if we replace more, you can see overall it's well affecting. However, this is add to that depth kind of work together. Okay, our scale, everything. So translucency is kind of very cool option to change. Next, let's go to kill this one because I don't want to use it. We have also, because we have it multi-material options, we also have effects. And effects, well, sorry, presence. Effects have another presence. It's a kind of After Effects, but it is appear and disappear, depend if you have it layers. Like if we go on one below, it does not have it presence. The presence for the layer above another ones, it's how this layer will interact, and it because it's on top, it can be scale, it can be disappear, transparency. So in this case, we can say where it's appear, like for example, altitude range, and we can say, you can see as we change altitude, it's changing as well here. Currently, it says by the object. Range can be absolutely relative to C or material. If you work like with terrains, massive terrains in world standard kind of mapping mode, you probably want to say relative to the sea because it's from the way sea location. Then you can adjust position, like for example, you create layer of the snow on top of the mountain, yes. Then you go to altitude range and you can change, say here and says, okay, this material, doesn't matter what it is, transparency, everything else, want to appear on this altitude. And then you can set this. And if you use global material to all of those terrains, they will affect everywhere same. So it's kind of cool things. Also, you'll notice it's a hard line to remove. You have it fuzziness on the top or bottom. So if we increase fuzziness, you can see how now it's nice and smooth going. So we still have it just on top of that layer, but now it's blending a little bit better. Again, I'm saying by the object. Of course, you can do it by the materials as well. Okay, below we have a slope. In this case, it's not necessarily kind of visible, but let's say I don't want to have it on top. So if I go and say slope right here, notice top is gone now on a side. So if I'm going and set this way, now my top does not have this layer, only on the sides. If I go opposite and I says, you know what, just let's go on the top, you can see it's just on the top, not side. But because we have had flexibility in a slope, we can create cover. For example, in many cases, I says, okay, 45 degrees, those slopes need to have it rocks. But everything that is more steep or flat, remove it. So I can go around here and it says, okay, let's go from 29, for example, to 99. Well, it's one effect in this because obviously it's a flat. But I will say, in this case, slope range, just display that layer, and another ones don't display it. So very cool. Same things, you have fuzziness on the steep or flat, so from both ends. And orientation. Orientation is depend, again, based on your object orientation or absolute, it will have it what sides you want it. Think about it, if you have it mountains, snow on the mountains, and on the south side, you usually have it less snow because the sun is warming up. On the north side, you maybe have it more snow. In this case, you can specify on which side we have it more materials or less material with this. So this is kind of cool about the presence. And again, they won't work on the first layer because we don't have it underlying layer. It must be a layer only on above the layer. Okay, next, let's go to our effects. And effects tab, you look right here, we have our lighting, diffuse, it's a lighting, diffuse ambient, luminosity, make our object glowing. I used a lot of time this when we create LCD screen or something simulating, or you want to create some object like light bulb, neon tube, was very good. So luminosity work very well. Also contrast, it's very straightforward. Backlit as well with the object when we need it. Right now we don't have it, so we won't see effect on this. Color effect metal we saw before. It won't be working if you don't have a transparency, or sorry, reflections, but it's work if you have the reflections, that will work. And color transmit lights if you have it glowing something and you want more transmit the current coloring of this light, so you can increase this as well. Your origin of materials where it's set. Also you have it glowing. Glowing can just add behind the object. It is a little bit older function, and I'm not necessarily like this. I hardly use it most time of this, but it just let you know it's add this glowing just above, up front, or behind object, because you can set right here glow behind object or up front. It's okay, but it's a little bit older function in this case. And global transformation, turbulence, rotation, cycling, it's just distortion applied. It is very useful if you have it use the image as your pattern, and you can see repetition when, for example, you have a grass, patch of grass, and you put it as on your terrain, and you can see sometimes the repetitions going all over places. So by using turbulence, cycling, rotations, all these properties and change, you can rotate, you can skew those images, and they look a little bit more not repetitive. They look more natural, kind of, as it's different images. So this way a little bit better work with that. Whoa, we have it a very long, and we just cover only one simple materials. On the bright side, other ones they're very somewhat similar or a little bit older versions. So we'll cover those in the next video, and hopefully have it fun. Let me know what you think. See you next time.